Hello and welcome to the Gradcracker webinar with the Intellectual Property Office, or IPO, and our final webinar of this season, and what a wonderful way to end. My name is Sophie, I'm a director at Gradcracker and have been with the business for 12 years. I've been working with the IPO for the last 10 years, and I'm really excited for you all to find out more about them today. I'm also joined by my co-director Jessica, who I'm sure many of you will recognise from previous webinars and the many university presentations she delivers. Jess?
Brilliant. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Jess. I'm Marketing Director here at Gradcracker, and I'm very excited to be here today with the IPO. Lots of things that we're going to discover. So yeah, thank you so much for having us, and looking forward to the session.
Thanks, Jess. So during today's webinar, our aim is to find out more about the IPO, their opportunities, and what life is like working there. Starting with our contact Charlotte, the resourcing manager, we'll have an introduction to the organisation and their opportunities. Claire, one of the patent group heads, will then tell us all about the life cycle of a patent application so we can get a full understanding of the organisation. The rest of the panel from the IPO will then talk to you about their educational background, their day-to-day roles, what life is like working at the IPO, and their future plans. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll discuss the recruitment process and give you some hints and tips on how to be successful in securing a role with the IPO, including some of the individual experiences of the graduates. We've also had some questions submitted by you, our students, so these have been incorporated too. So let's get started. So Charlotte, thank you very much for joining us. Could you give everyone an introduction about the IPO and what it does?
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
So the Intellectual Property Office is a government agency that forms part of the civil service. We are the UK's official government body for overseeing and protecting intellectual property rights. And this includes the examination and registration of designs, trademarks, copyright, and what we'll be predominantly talking about today, patents. Mm-hmm. So simply put, the IPO helps protect great ideas and creations. But we also really look after our people here. Mm-hmm. So IPO is a place that is friendly, we're supportive, and full of talented people. We very much promote sort of feeling comfortable and feeling able to bring your whole self to work. And we're super, super lucky to have such great on-site facilities. So I really do believe that there's something for everyone there, you know, whether it's we have a nursery, we have dedicated peaceful spaces, we have a gym, and my personal favourite, a very good coffee shop.
So definitely need that. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Charlotte. And after working with the IPO for so many years, that comes across so much whenever I speak to you, Charlotte, and you know, working with other people at the organisation. So thank you for that. So moving on to your opportunities, can you give us an overview of the roles that you recruit each year and those which are currently advertised on the Gradcracker Company Hub?
Definitely, yeah. So each year, typically twice a year, we recruit for a number of associate patent examiners across varying different technologies and specialisms. In the past, we've also offered degree apprenticeships within the patent field, as well as a year in industry placements within our digital space. And in the very near future, we'll be advertising for 2 graduate opportunities within our digital data and technology division. So we'll be looking for a junior developer and a security operations center analyst. So do keep an eye out for this. If you're watching and you're a recent grad or you're due to graduate, they will be live in the coming weeks. And if you do a follow on our IPO hub via Gradcracker, you'll be alerted as soon as they go live. But as of today, we're live now with around 27 opportunities to join the IPO as an associate patent examiner. And these roles are split across 3 separate adverts, each with their own sort of specialism. We've got a telecommunications and computing, we've got chemistry, and then we have a more general sort of physics, engineering, maths, or other similar STEM subjects.
Fantastic. Thank you, Charlotte. And yeah, like you said, throughout the years and every year you might be recruiting slightly different specialisms, but they will all be kind of very clear on the ad. So yeah, 27 roles split across 3 ads that are currently live. So all of those roles as well will be closing on the 17th of February, just for everybody to know. And like Charlotte says, make sure you follow IPO on Gradcracker to be alerted to those digital roles that will be going live towards the end of the month. So now can we talk a little bit about working arrangements? So do you offer hybrid working? Is this different for newly starting graduates and trainees? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so yes and yes. In line with our hybrid working arrangements, we say that staff spend at least 20% of their time working in this case, it would be our Newport office. However, newly appointed individuals within this patent space will undergo a training program for around 7 to 8 weeks, and that will be held on site in our Newport office full time. And the main reason for that really is just to allow everyone to kind of get to know each other, get to know colleagues, fellow recruits. We find that it's a real nice sort of like buzz those first few weeks. So yeah, you really want to be there in person to properly experience it. But we do also recognise that a lot of new recruits will be relocating from all areas of the country. And so for those in that situation, just know that you won't be alone. It's quite regular that a lot of our patent examiners come from sort of all over the place. So we do have a candidate pack to kind of help you on that journey, on the where to live, where's the local shop, or whatever it might be. We've got sort of resources on hand to help with that.
Fantastic. Yeah, so a lot of support in that kind of initial relocation and the first couple of months. And like Charlotte says, you're going to be joining with a number of other people as well. So you are going to have that support network and other peers in that situation. So when graduates apply to one of the roles, so like you said, at the moment you're kind of recruiting to 3 different areas. How are they then assigned to different teams at the IPO? Is this based on particular degree disciplines and specialisms? How do you kind of place people?
Yeah, so I mean, you're exactly right. At the moment, we are recruiting for areas of technology where we've identified that we're under-resourced. So at the moment, it's really a case of finding the right people for the roles that we need filling.
Okay.
But with that being said, not every advert will be exactly the same. We might sometimes recruit in a bit more like an open capacity. And once in the office as well, we find kind of depending upon the patent examining group in which you'd be placed, people do continue to learn new specialisms. But this time round, it is based on their degree, their discipline, specialism, and how they perform during the assessment and interview stage.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Thank you for that introduction, letting us know kind of what's going on right now. I'm going to come back to you towards the end of the webinar, Charlotte, to talk about the recruitment process. But now I would like to introduce Claire, who is one of the patent group heads, to talk more about what the IPO does and what patent examining involves. She is also Wales STEM Woman of the Year, which we'll hear more about later on. But Claire, could you give us an overview of what a patent examiner does and the life cycle of a patent application coming in and what happens next?
Well, hello everybody. So for those who don't know, I'll start with a little bit of an introduction on what a patent is. So a patent is essentially a bargain between an inventor and the Crown. So the inventor provides like full disclosure of their invention, and the Crown will grant a limited monopoly to stop other people from copying their invention. The monopoly lasts for about 20 years, and it needs annual renewal fees from the 4th year onwards. Essentially, the patent system is there to help promote innovation. So because inventors share details of their inventions, others can use the information and build on it to come up with more inventions. So that's essentially what a patent is. So the job of a patent examiner. So what examiners do is they look at a patent application and then they use their STEM background and legal training. The legal training they will get at the office once they've joined, and then they try to determine whether an application can be granted. So a patent needs to be new and inventive. It needs to be capable of industrial application, and it needs not to be excluded. So things like computer programs, methods of diagnosis or treatment, anything that's contrary to public policy, morality, those things can't be patented. So when a patent application reaches the office, there's a number of checks that need to happen before it reaches the patent examiner. So the checks are to ensure that the correct forms have been filed, the correct fees have been paid, the application is legible and can be reproduced. And then the application is also screened to ensure that it's not a security concern. So obviously, if people want to try and patent nuclear warfare, you know, they can't do that sort of thing. So if all's okay with the application, it's then given a filing date. And that's the day that the office receives the documents, basically, and the filing date is really important. The application is then sent to the patent examiner to search it, and that'll take place no later than about 6 months after the filing date. The examiner will read the invention, understand how it works, and then they'll use search tools to try and look for other patents, journal articles, books, YouTube videos, anything that either describes the same invention or a similar invention. It's pretty much like playing Invention Snap. The patent examiner will then communicate the results of the search and any issues with the application to the applicant, and this is usually done via a patent attorney who's acting on behalf of the applicant. At 18 months old, the application will be published, and then it becomes available in the public domain. So the applicant can withdraw before publication if they don't want their application broadcasted. If the attorney wants to pursue grant and then they want the application examined, this will usually happen after publication. And then the examiner and the attorney will basically just work together to amend the application, sometimes multiple times, to kind of get it to a grantable form. There's lots of roles in the office to help get a patent from filing to grant. We've got document reception, finance, security section, index scanning, really super helpful and talented admin support team, and of course is the patent examiners. And we all work together at various stages in the life cycle from filing to grant, and that's typically around 4.5 years long.
Wow, okay. So you can be working on one particular application, one particular invention for quite a long period of time then?
Yeah, not continuously. So
no.
Yeah, you do something and then it's in the applicant's court to do something, and then it comes back and then you do something else. But yeah, 4.5 years is the sort of typical life cycle of a filing to grant.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Claire. And I hope that kind of makes it clear why the IPO really need those STEM degrees. You know, the types of inventions and applications coming in could be a wide range of different technologies. And, you know, they need people in the organisation that are going to be able to read, understand and find similar things, and whether that would be able to be granted. So thank you very much for that introduction, Claire and Charlotte. I'm going to hand over to Jess now to delve a little bit deeper into everybody's working life at the IPO.
Perfect. Thank you, Soph, and thank you, Charlotte and Claire. Super interesting. Can't wait to find out more. So, Angie, I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay, just to do a bit of an introduction. So, where you went to university and what you studied.
So I went to university. My first degree, my bachelor's degree, was in 2018, and that was business and management. And then my master's degree was data science.
Yeah.
And the University of West of England in Bristol.
Fantastic. And what is your current role at the IPO?
So I'm working as an associate patent examiner for the computing group.
Brilliant. And when did you join?
It was October 2023.
So you've been there just, oh gosh, I was going to say over a year. No, we're in 2025 now, aren't
it's
we?
over a year. I know.
Fantastic. And how has the experience been so far? Have you been enjoying it?
It's really great. I mean, it's one of the best working places I've ever been. Everyone is lovely. The training program was amazing. The first 2 months when I joined the office, because pretty much nobody knows about the legal aspect for patent examining. You get the full training in the office, and you don't do anything else within the first 2 months apart from doing the training.
Yeah.
Which was really, really nice and super helpful, and everyone were really supportive.
We're going to talk about this a bit later on, but I'm dying to ask. Did it make you a bit nervous hearing everything that you guys do? And Claire, that was again a really great example of the process. But yeah, as a STEM student, maybe not knowing anything legal and not really studied that within your degree, how was that training for you? And did it put you off at first, thinking, "Oh, am I going to be able to do it?" Or did you feel
Yes, exactly. It put me off for the first like 2, 3 weeks because I had no idea what a pattern was or how it works. But as I said, exactly because the program was specific for people that they didn't know anything about it, we were all on the same page. Like
Yeah,
none of my colleagues knew anything about it as well.
yeah,
So yeah, it was a nice environment to learn because you felt like I wasn't behind.
yeah. You were in it
Yeah.
together. And this is great. And this is why, and thank you for being honest there, because, this is why, doing these webinars is so great because then you can hear, actually, it's not just me thinking like that. I'm going to be in with a group of people. We're going to do it together and we're going to get through it. So absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Angie, for that. So tell us a bit about the areas then that you've been working on so far and maybe what the team is like that you've been working in.
So at the moment, because I'm still trying to complete my training, I am doing many different cases. My group, as I said, is the computing group, which means that we can do anything related to computers. That might be hardware, certain software application, or anything technological. I'm not working in a specific area, but there are people in the office who are way more experienced and they are doing a single classification, which means that they're more likely to work on certain areas more often. At the moment, I'm doing a bit of everything because that's going to help me with my training and therefore the promotion. So yeah, it's a bit of everything at the moment, and I
Yeah.
really like the diversity. It's very interesting. You never know what's going to come.
I can imagine, especially in your role.
Yeah.
This is why I can't wait to find out more about the patterns of things that you've been working on. Because that constant new innovations coming through, things are changing all the time. It must be really, really exciting, that kind of day to day, not knowing what's going
Yeah.
to come next. Fantastic. Okay, Joe, I'm going to come to you next then, do a quick introduction. So similar kind of questions, if that's okay. Like, where did you go to university and what did you study?
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate and my PhD at Cardiff University. My undergraduate was in just straight physics, and my PhD was in semiconductor physics, essentially silicon photonics.
Fantastic. And do you know what? I had a call with Glasgow this morning, my lovely careers advisors that I speak to them. We were talking about physics students and we're going to run a session with physics students. And you're a perfect example, Joe, of why physics students can pretty much go into any industry and do lots of fantastic things. So Joe, why did IPO initially kind of attract you? What was the attraction there? Did you have that nervous anxiety feeling like Angie did with the law side, or do you think, oh, I can do that?
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, so as it's kind of been touched upon already, you're being hired for your STEM background, for your technical capabilities, and not just, as we'll kind of get to in a sec, not just specifically what you've learned. That can obviously be very helpful depending on where you end up working eventually. But the, you, I went in not knowing anything about the legal side of the job, quite frankly, and as has been touched on already, the training is very extensive, and it's even after that initial training period, there's always support should you need help on any kind of aspect of the job. There's, as you said, Mitch, with physics, it's a great opportunity for me. The reason I think I looked at this job originally was coming from the PhD. A PhD is great, and I think if you want to go into academia, fantastic. I kind of felt quite, I don't want to say isolated, but towards the end, I was thinking I want to kind of make sure that I want to work on a wide range of topics fundamentally.
Yeah.
And that really did draw me when I was looking up what the role of a patent examiner was. The stuff that you get to look at on a day-to-day basis is far greater and has far more variety than any kind of job that I can think of at this kind of technical level. And fundamentally, that was, I think, the main thing that really drew me to the job.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm so excited to find out the things that you've been working on. But just to go back a step, sorry, Joe, I did warn you that I'm going to go off piece and I'm going to randomly put questions out there. When did you join the IPO? Sorry.
Yeah, so I joined March 2023, so just coming up to 2 years now.
2 years, fantastic. And tell us as well a bit about the patterns that you've been working in so far and what areas you've been working on.
Yeah, so the group that I'm in focus primarily on engines, pumps, turbines, and exhaust systems. That covers everything from individual components within the engine to how the engine is controlled.
Yeah.
Turbines, I typically look at a lot of wind turbine technology. And so even though there's, you can list, oh, it's only four kind of general topics. Within that, there's such a variety of work that you can just pick up on it on a day-to-day basis. As I say, you kind of, as Andrew's touched upon, you kind of never really know what's going to come next or what you're going to be looking at, which I really like.
Yeah. And was energy an interest personally for you, like renewable energy, that kind of thing? Was that an interest before?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, kind of a little bit adjacent to what I'd worked on during my kind of PhD, but the PhD was about trying to find kind of more energy efficient ways of, essentially of like trying to, I'm going into too much now, but it's kind of finding more energy efficient ways of creating integrated circuits. So yeah, it's always been an interest of mine, and I think being able to look at that, like I say, in adjacent topics, but in a similar kind of overall vein, yeah, it's great. I really, really enjoy it.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Joe. And Claire, I know we're going to come back to you. You've kind of done a perfect introduction about IPO, but yeah, tell us a bit more about you and where you went to university and what did you study?
Okay, so like Joe, I spent 7 years at Cardiff University, in chemistry though. So I did a 3-year chemistry degree, and then I did another 4 years to get a PhD in colloid and interface science.
Right.
So my thesis is on the rheology of carbon black based printed ink dispersions. So basically how printed ink flows onto the page and how it flows in the printer and things like that.
Yeah.
I joined the office as a career changer in September 2016. I started as an associate patent examiner. I worked in the process chemistry group. I examined patents to do with like catalysts, chemical reactors, batteries. So pretty much like chemical, industrial chemical processes, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I became a group head last April in the human necessities group, and that group. So I got a chemistry background, but the group I'm managing at the moment, we deal with applications, things like clothing and shoes and jewelry, computer games, printer cartridges. So anything you can deem as a human necessity, although not food. Surprisingly, not food.
Okay, I'm assuming there's a separate team then for that.
Yes, there is.
Absolutely. So, Claire, how long have you been at the IPO?
So yeah, so it's about 8 and a bit years now.
8
so
years.
yeah,
Fantastic. And I can imagine now you can see yourself carrying on a career at the IPO.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Love it.
Career change. It was the best career change. It was the best choice I've ever made. So yeah, definitely.
And well done for doing that. Again, I think sometimes when I speak to students that are maybe more mature students and they're saying, "Oh, is it all right for me, changing?" And will employers still look at me? Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Changing career is a massive thing, isn't it? And having the commitment and the passion to do it is fantastic. So well done. And so yeah, Angie, I'm going to come to you because I'm desperate to find out really more about your day-to-days and the projects and things that you've been working on. So I'm going to come to you on that one, if that's okay. Tell me a bit about what life is like for you on a typical average day, even though no day is the same, as you said earlier.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say how important it is every time when you wake up in the morning, you're not thinking, oh my God, I'm going to speak with that person again. I have never said that in IPO because everyone is really lovely. So it's always a pleasure. I mean, even if I'm still doing my training, like the basic training, but I feel like I have so many opportunities and I'm so willing to do it on a daily basis because there's no pressure. And so I start by, first of all, I open obviously all my emails, check my meetings and etc. I'm trying to see if I have any feedback from my manager, because usually when you create a report, you send a report to your line manager and then he will send you the feedback for the corrections and things that you have to change. So yeah, at this point, the communication is really, really important. And I'm glad that the communication with my line manager so far was great. And obviously, on top of that, if something goes wrong with my day, if I feel a bit like, I can't work now, but I can work later, we have flexi time.
Okay. That's good to know.
So yeah, you can take a long break, 2 or 3 hours if you want, as long as you let your line manager know, and come back and do these hours later during the day, as long as
Yeah.
it's before 10 p.m. So the flexibility is really, really crucial.
Yeah. It's nice you've got that support then, that you can be like that. You've got a great team around you that, again, if you need time away, you can have that and you can come back. So tell me a bit
Exactly.
about the patent applications then that you've been working on, and yeah, what that kind of process looks like.
So the process is very standard because you have the legal aspect. So we have the legal framework that we have to follow. But honestly, it's like the legal framework is more like a target. Your way of getting there, it can be very different. And every time, because we're changing line managers quite often, every line manager might have a different approach, and it might still be correct. So I might ask for someone's opinion, and I might ask 5 different people, and I get 5 different responses, and they're all correct.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to find a way of balancing what works for you and what works for the job itself, like what is correct to do. I'm still too early in my career, so I can't really do that at the moment. So I'm following my line manager's approach,
Yeah.
and it works perfectly so far.
Again, you've got that network around you, which is great. And can you give it as an example of an application you've worked on so far, and maybe your favorite one that you've seen come in so far?
In terms of subject area,
Subject, or just think, oh, that was a genius idea.
well, I think most of the quantum computing applications, because they're so complicated and so difficult, I really enjoy searching for them and learning about them because I know nothing about quantum computing. So I found anything related to quantum computing really, really interesting.
Yeah. I can imagine that's a huge benefit for doing your role. The amount of stuff that you guys are going to learn.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's stuff that you'd say majority of people maybe never even thought of before.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, you don't know about that kind of things, and you don't have to, as long as you're willing to do the search, learn the fundamentals, and understand the application, you're good to go.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Angie. Super,
Jess,
super.
sorry, Jess, I'm just going to jump in here because Angie, you've mentioned there that you're still kind of having your kind of initial training. And obviously Charlotte mentioned at the beginning about the first sort of 7 to 8 weeks is, that's all you're doing. It's full training. How does the training program kind of work after that point? What type of things are you doing still now, sort of a year or so in?
So when you're an associate patent examiner, you're still in a training position until you get the promotion for the patent examiner. That's different. You can apply for that later. But in general, the office wants us to stay as an associate patent examiner for at least 2 years before we apply for promotion. That means that I'm still on a training role, and I still have to complete a few boxes about, in regards to my training. So yeah, associate patent examining is a training role that you can have for at least 2 years.
Okay, so during that 2 years, you're learning loads of different things, as you've mentioned, different methods, how to search, the legal elements. That kind of takes that 2-year period to get that kind of full knowledge.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and so you can get the promotion and become a patent examiner.
Fantastic. Thank you, Angie. Sorry, Jess.
No, good question. Thank you both of you. So, Joe, I'm going to come to you next on kind of working in a slightly different area to Angie. So tell us a bit about the patterns typically that you see coming through, and maybe a bit more about what you've been working on.
Yeah, so like I say, I work on typically engines, pumps, turbines, and exhausts. I can't talk about a lot of the stuff I've worked on recently because it hasn't actually been published yet. But a case I have worked on not too long ago, which, I mean, we touched upon it a little bit earlier, I think, Jess did, where this is kind of the opposite of thinking, oh my God, this is genius. It was kind of more, and you see it quite a lot, these incremental changes that, it's basically building off what's already been. And basically it was an exhaust kind of after treatment system for, well, it was just a general thing, but it's for a ship, fundamentally like a boat, like a big boat. And it was an exhaust, standard exhaust passage, and it basically split into two different outlets. One which basically had a catalyst to reduce the emissions within the exhaust gas, and another but basically was a normal pipe that didn't have any after treatment components. And essentially, this kind of normal pipe just moved back and forth, and when it was in a particular position, it opened or closed one of the outlets. So at any given point, you could decide, well, the exhaust gas is going to go through one of the outlets or it's going to go through the other.
Okay.
Now, again, I looked at this, I thought, well, mechanically, it seems quite simple. I imagine I'll find quite a lot of stuff with this. And I found stuff that I could cite and that was kind of relevant, but I didn't find anything that was exactly what this invention was. And I kind of found that interesting because it was, again, kind of on the opposite side of the quantum computing, where you look at it and go, this is unbelievably complicated. I might not find anything. And it turns out you do go and find quite a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might look at something and go, on the face of it, yeah, this looks, someone's bound to have done this.
Yeah.
And then you go out and actually no one's done it exactly like that. And so then you've got to kind of, again, go back to the legal, kind of what you've learned in your legal training and work out, well, is that difference enough to show that it's inventive? Is there stuff that we need to perhaps object against still? We need to kind of make sure that once those amendments have come back and we've re-reviewed any changes, that the patent that we're granting fundamentally is a valid patent, that they're going to get the protection that that they really should, and I think, like I say, I can't talk about a lot of stuff I've worked on recently. I think that was one that's come back actually from when I started, that I was just looking at it again thinking, oh yeah, it was interesting from the standpoint
Really interesting.
yeah.
And
Just
again, imagine all the situations you're going to be in like that now in your career.
Yeah,
You're going to see so many different things like that. You're thinking, well, that's really quite obvious. So I'm surprised that's never been done before.
yeah, and again, going back to like learning, I'm quite happy in saying before this, I wasn't an expert in exhaust systems. I'm certainly not one now, but it's that ability this job offers to get exposed to the cutting edge on such a wide range of technology areas. I think I can't think of another job that allows that to this kind of level where you get to exposed to it to such a high degree.
Yeah.
So it's great.
I've been saying that for years.
It makes sense now, sir.
Yeah,
I get it.
No, but I think it is
It's
so
a massive advocate,
fascinating, and especially because Joe and Angie are only in two groups as well of the IPO, and there's so many other different technology areas, and yeah, just fascinating.
It is super fascinating, super duper. I feel like I've got more questions for you, Joe. I have got more questions. You've given us an example, but you said a bit earlier about like the rejection process. Not to go into too much detail, but I feel like I've got a little niggle there. So if you did reject a patent, could you go back, because you've put that research in as well, and say, this would actually be better if you did it like this? Or would that then completely change the patent? Can you give feedback, or would you not do that?
We typically don't give feedback in how to overcome the objections. We really just present what the objections are, and then realistically, the applicant and the agent can really only overcome those objections with what was originally filed. So they might have other aspects that from the description of their application that they haven't put into their kind of claimed invention. They can put that in potentially, and that could be a way around overcoming the objections.
Right.
Sometimes they can argue back about why they might not always agree with what we've said. And so, irrespective of how they've come back, we take on board what they've said, and then we'll objectively look through, right, does this make sense, what they're saying? Yes, maybe it can then go to grant. Maybe there are other issues that are still lingering.
Yeah.
But yeah, we typically don't offer, this is how you overcome this option. That's really for the patent attorney and the applicant to kind of decide.
To do that bit. Yeah. And Joe, sorry, how long left have you got in your training program?
So yeah, I've come up to 2 years now. So what I would say is that I'm still in the position, as Andrew pointed out, my work will get revised by my revising officer. Hopefully in the next 6 months to a year, I'll be looking to go for that then. But I think I suspect we'll talk about this a little bit later. But like I say, the training process is very continuous. And to be perfectly honest, even when you're at the patent examiner grade or even senior patent examiner grade, the law is changing in different aspects. It could be subtly, but irrespective, there's always training opportunities just to keep your legal knowledge topped up. So there's always opportunities to kind of keep developing, irrespective of your grade.
Yeah. And like Angie, you've got line manager, you've got that support, similar kind of thing. Fantastic.
Yeah, and not just the line manager, but you can go to people within your group, because you'll have technical experts within your group, and sometimes it might make more sense on a particular case to go to them for advice. More often than not, it'll be a line manager at first port of call.
Yeah.
But yeah, opportunities everywhere.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much, Joe. And Claire, I'm going to come to you next. So since you've progressed from being a patent examiner, can you tell us a bit more about what your kind of new role is? You kind of gave us a little bit of an introduction earlier, but if you can go into a little bit more detail on what your new role looks like, and maybe a bit of a day-to-day for you.
Yeah, no worries. So listening to Joe and Angie has made me realise that I actually really miss patent examining. As a group head, I don't actually examine patents myself anymore. But what I do is I manage and lead a team of 15 examiners, basically to make sure the work gets done by the right people. I'm there to motivate and lead the team. I'm there as an advisor. I get involved in legal hearings. I do quality control. And also as part of like the senior leadership team for the office, I help sort of set direction for office initiatives, things like that. So my role is more of a kind of overseer rather than a doer of patents. Yeah.
I can imagine though. I can imagine you miss that. Especially for doing it for as long as you did, and then now.
Yeah, it's a great job. It really
But
is.
it must be nice to get that diverse. You're going to have so many people coming to you, asking so many different questions.
Exactly. I still get the diversity, so I still see a lot of patents. It's just I don't examine them myself.
Yeah.
I still get to see all the brilliant innovations and all the brilliant inventions that are coming through, but I don't get to examine them myself.
So, Claire, the route that you've done from being a patent examiner to patent group head, is your journey quite typical in terms of timeframes, or is yours been slightly different in any way? And talk us through those timeframes and how that worked for you.
Sure, yeah. So the typical route for a patent examiner, so you start as an associate, like Joe and Angie. You get promoted to an examiner, and the usual timeframes is anywhere from 2 to 4-ish years. And then once you're an examiner, then you aspire to be a senior examiner, or some people do. And then you can progress to senior examiner once you've been in the office for about 7 to 9 years. This route, all the way from associate to senior examiner, is like non-competitive. Basically, you get promoted and progressed where you can demonstrate that you're working at that level, the next grade. If a senior examiner then wants to try something a bit different, involving a bit more people management, so that's where the group head role comes in. That is competitive. That is a competitive role. At the office at the moment, there's currently 23 groups. So like we said, so Joe and Angie are in one each. There's 23 groups. So that means 23 group heads. And there's about 400 examiners.
Is there?
There is, yes.
And how many's in the office that you're in now? Because majority of them are there, aren't they?
Here, yeah. There's about 400 examiners in this building, yes.
Yes, because you do have a small London office, don't you?
We do, but examiners tend not to work out of the London office. The majority of examiners will work hybrid, so sometimes at home and sometimes in the office in Newport.
Yeah, fantastic. And as Sophie mentioned, I want to say congratulations, because you are Wales STEM Woman of the Year. So well done for that, a fantastic achievement. So could you tell us a bit more about this and how you got recognised and what you did to achieve that?
Yeah, so I also head up the office's STEM outreach programme. where I lead and inspire a team of like volunteers, and we collaborate with the on-site nursery and local schools. Basically, we try and like raise awareness of different aspects of STEM and intellectual property amongst all the young people. So we sort of run practical demos with the nursery children, and we make slime. We teach them about like density, things like that. We visit schools and we deliver STEM sessions in both English and in Welsh. We run competitions, like we run one recently asking year 8 pupils to tell us about their favourite inventor and why. We've got a mentoring scheme with a local high school. We invite girls into the office. We try and change the perception that STEM is not for girls. We also we develop online videos as well for like 11 to 14-year-olds about STEM topics that will be important in their future. So yeah, my colleagues put me forward for the award in autumn last year. Yeah, very proud that our hard work's been recognised. And I say our because it is a team effort. Like basically I just happened to be the woman leading the team at the time.
You did mention that in the prep session, Claire. You're like, it's everyone.
It is
well
yes,
done, well
team
done.
effort.
And absolutely, that message is so important. STEM is for everyone, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's really, really great that you're pushing that out. So thank you very much for that, Claire. So now I want to talk a bit about what life is outside, like life outside of the day job, really, and what you guys get up to socially, because sometimes students find that transition a little bit hard from being able to socialise when you want and do what you want to being in full-time work. So tell us a bit, Jo, if that's okay, what the social aspects of working for the IPO has been like, and if you've been on any training events or anything like that.
Yeah, so I'd say I think Charles touched on it a bit earlier. The first, 7 to 8 weeks, you're in the office quite a bit. I think all the time actually. It's a great opportunity for you to get to know your cohort. So obviously, you can work together on your assignments. There's opportunities to build networks there. We also have on-site, like I say, we have a gym. We have what's called a well-being suite. So we have a snooker table, pool table, dartboard, table tennis table, where basically in your breaks you can go there and you can just hang out with some of your colleagues, just to chill out a bit. Or at the end of the day, you've had a long day, you just want to go and throw a dart at a wall, it's you can do that as well. One thing I really liked as well about the job is that we get volunteering days, so we can take paid leave to go and do voluntary work. I've organized a couple within my group to do kind of team voluntary days where essentially we've gone out in the local community and done litter picking, or if you can go out and paint. So you can do some sort of volunteering work essentially, and that's a great way of kind of getting to know your colleagues in an out of office kind of environment. So yeah, loads of opportunities I think for you to interact socially with your colleagues if that is what you choose. As for training, as I say, there's loads and loads of opportunities for training, both from a legal standpoint, as we've already touched upon, but also from a technical standpoint. So we've kind of touched upon it a bit already. Some of the stuff we look at, we're not initially experts in. So one of the things I looked at was, well, I do look at is hydrogen fuel engines. So components for engines that use hydrogen fuel as opposed to traditional, your petrol, your diesel, that kind of stuff. And since I've joined, I've been to three or four technical training events, so expeditions around the country. Basically, where in the most recent one, for example, I think was back in autumn. It was a renewable energy for transportation, or sustainable energy for transportation event, and there I got to have discussions with some of the world leaders in hydrogen fuel technology. So I got to reaffirm what I'd already learned from the applications that involved that technology, but also got to then talk to them about where that technology is potentially going. So because it's quite likely that I'd end up seeing that technology through the patent application. So almost like kind of get a head start on what potentially to expect. But as I say, that's just an example of the kind of training that's on offer. So it might be that you go to a conference that's to do with your chemistry background if you work in a chemistry area or commuting background. So there's always training to top up not only your legal aspects of the job, but the technical aspects as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick. And is there any personal training, Joe? So say, I don't know, the classic one there. I'm just thinking like, presentation skill, kind of your soft skills, communication skills, that kind of stuff. Do you get any training there as well? Not just the tech stuff, but
yeah, definitely. Off the top of my head, I've had this is I wouldn't say this is like almost like training by throwing yourself into the fire, but there are opportunities to give presentations. I've given presentations to my group. So what I would say is actually, yes, to a certain extent, once you get to know your group and you're giving little talks about something you've done recently or some project work that you're working on, you can start, give a little presentation to your line manager just to kind of see are you hitting the right points. You can then talk to your group about it, give the presentation. We've done other outreach work, so I've spoken at Cardiff University about the role as well, and there are opportunities for you to develop those soft skills, not just the communication. So my background with the PhD, I did a lot of data analysis in Python. I'm still using some of those skills now in some of the some work we do. So although the primary focus of the role is to examine patents, they are absolutely opportunities to develop those soft skills further if you've already done them, or to dabble in it if you haven't. So yeah, definitely opportunities.
That's really, really good. No, perfect. Thank you very much, Joe, for that. I think that's the thing as well. Communication is absolutely key, especially in your roles as well, to learn what others are doing.
Yep.
To learn about, new tech, new industries, new things that's going on. So yeah, really, really good. And it's really great that you get that support from such an early stage, which is fantastic. Angie, I'm going to come to you on this one as well. Just to find a bit more, is that similar in your area? I'm assuming it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done similar kind of trips and days out and events and things?
So actually, yesterday I was in London for a seminar for the entire day where the office paid for my train tickets. It was a seminar related to the technology I'm working, machine learning, AI, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice experience. It was my first seminar with IPO and I really, really loved it. Like I could happily go again in the future in any seminar.
Hint, hint.
As long as, they cover the costs. That's all I need. That's fine.
No, that's great. And again, really great to hear that you get that support as well. So talking a little bit on training and development opportunities then for the graduates. Claire, I'm going to come to you on this one. Is there anything else that you want to add on top of that? Is there anything maybe even personal that you've had or you maybe do with your grads that you look after?
So, okay, I can add that we mentioned earlier, we need people with a STEM degree to come in as a patent examiner, and then you learn the intellectual property law. To become a senior patent examiner, you actually have to get a qualification in intellectual property law. So you can get a certificate, postgrad certificate, or a diploma, or you can even do a master's, and the office pays for this qualification, and then they give you time off for study leave as well to write all your assignments and things like that. I know that you can learn Welsh speaking if you want to in the office. There's loads of other things, so not necessarily training, but like sort of like different projects you can get involved with to learn new skills. So we've got things like a search and advisory team, we've got like a legal team and a policy team, we've got like private applicant unit where you can go and work and deal with private applicants, which is a completely different kettle of fish to attorneys. We've got like trade unions, so if you're interested in union work you can get involved in that. Obviously the STEM outreach team. We got the parents network, accessibility networks, coaching networks, iPride network. There's so many things in the office going on and so many opportunities for people to get involved in other things and learn new skills.
Yeah, perfect. So, Sophie, I'm going to hand over to you. We're going to find out from Charlotte and everyone else on how, when, what, why, and how we do this. How are we going to apply?
Thanks, Jess. And thank you to everyone. I mean, it's been so interesting listening to you And like I said earlier, I've been saying it for years, there's no other career where you can really access so many different technologies. And I think listening to Joe and Angie, especially, you know, about some of the work that you've been involved in and what you're learning has been really, really interesting. So yeah, I'm going to come to Charlotte now to find out how we get that job. So as we've mentioned, you've got your 3 different ads live on your company hub right now, with the closing date of the 17th of Feb. So once the students have gone onto Gradcracker, they've read through the role, they've clicked on apply now, what happens next?
Yes, so the all-important part.
Yeah.
Whilst you're on Gradcracker as well, definitely have a look around, because there is so much resources on there that will be really helpful when it comes to structuring your application right the way through to interview. But once you're ready to apply online now, as Sophie says, it will take you straight to civil service jobs. So this is where you'll have the opportunity to review the advert and the assessment criteria in full. So don't skip out on this part. Like, honestly, read it as much as you can, because all the stuff you need will be in there. And we try to make your lives easier as well. We have links to certain parts that you will find helpful. Once you are ready to start the application form, there'll be an apply now button right at the top and right at the bottom. So as soon as you click that, it will take you to the first stage, which we kind of call a short form. So this short form you are not assessed on. It is very sort of short and sweet. There'll be a little bit on eligibility. So it will be a couple of questions on your right to work in the UK and within the civil service. There will also be some personal information on there and sort of diversity monitoring. So really for us just to understand who is applying. Once you submit that form, you will then be invited to the next stage, which is to complete a civil service verbal test. So this sounds quite like daunting and scary, but honestly, it's really not. And when you land at this page, as I say, if you missed maybe a link on the first advert, it will be there for you again at this part. So this test, the civil service verbal test, it is there to test your ability to identify relevant information and draw logical conclusions from written information. So it's not there to catch you out. The test is not timed. We find that most people take maybe about an hour to complete it. So, you take as long as you need. Just make sure you set out that time, get yourself in a quiet zone and your head in the space. If you have any issues, so if after a certain amount of time, the test might time out if there's been like no activity. So if that happens, don't panic. The recruitment email address will be on the advert. It's really easy to remember. It's recruitment@ipo.gov.uk. That will come straight through to me and my team, and we're on hand to support if there's any kind of technical glitches with the test. Also, before you start the test, I can't recommend enough to take the practice test. So it will come up on the page before you start it. It will say, here's some test guidance. So you can read that as well if you want to kind of familiarize yourself with what the test might entail. But really, I can't stress enough, the practice test, it will just help you kind of understand what might come up and what the structure looks like. Once you're ready to go, get it going. Go through the test. As I say, it's not there to catch you out, so just answer all the questions as honestly as you can. Once you submit the test, there'll be a short wait then whilst you find out what your results are. If you have passed the test, you will then be invited to complete the application, which we then call the full form. And so that is where you are being assessed in your application. Now, the application itself and the elements that it will be looking to assess in terms of the success profile framework will be experience, and will assess experience through the personal statement. So your personal statement should be no more than 500 words, and don't worry about hitting the word count. Think more about the content of the personal statement. So all the guidance is there in the advert, and again when you come to the form to do it. but you should definitely refer to the person specification in the advert. I think there's about 4 or 5 bullet points there. Those are the things that you want to make sure you're including in your personal statement.
Yeah.
And make sure you're outlining any evidence of skills and qualities and just general experience that you think you could bring to the role, and why you think you could, do the role to the best of your ability. The final bit then in the application that will be assessed is a technical element. So this one is just 250 words. And this part will be how the panel established your knowledge in the listed subject area, and how you have applied and embedded this in practical situations. So when you come to this part, think maybe more examples of like research projects, industrial or sort of lab experiments. And that's pretty much it. The only other thing to just be mindful of is you don't have to upload anything. There will be kind of like a system-generated CV section, but you're not being assessed on that. It's simply so that the panel have a space to capture your employment history and your educational history. And then it's the waiting game. So yeah, I won't give information overload, but once you get to that stage, as I say, it's just a case of waiting for the results to come in. We have earmarked interviews due to take place around the 17th of March. They will be in our Newport office. Training as well we're looking to commence that Monday the 29th of September. So keep that date in your diaries. But yeah,
Fantastic.
good luck.
Thank you, Charlotte. No, it's really great to have such a comprehensive overview of what the students are actually going to have to go through to get that application in there, and the type of things and the advice that you've given there for them as well has been really, really helpful. So thank you very much for that overview. I am going to come to Claire now, because we've had a couple of student questions that were submitted in advance of today. So I am going to come to you on those ones. So Sarah from the University of Nottingham has submitted a question. So she wanted to know a bit about the progression as a patent examiner, and I think you kind of covered that element off earlier. But she has also asked, what would be your best advice for a recent chemistry graduate interested in pursuing a career as a patent examiner?
Okay, so I think Charlotte's covered quite a lot of this, but basically, I would say use the Gradcracker site, find out more about the IPO, do your research. If you decide it's a career that you want to attempt, I can't endorse it enough. It's a really brilliant career. I would say just make sure you've got up-to-date knowledge so you keep your technical skills up to date. Make sure you can write about your technical skills and your technical knowledge, because you will need these for the forms, like Charlotte mentioned. It's just a case of putting an application form, and yeah, best of luck.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Claire. And then secondly, we have a question from Josephine at Nottingham Trent University, and I've just realised it's 2 Nottinghams there, which is a bit of a coincidence. Can a graduate with a pharmacology master's find a career in the IPO?
Absolutely. So pharmacology is a recognised STEM degree, so you are eligible to apply. It basically depends on which STEM subjects we're recruiting at the time. Yeah. So for this time, we aren't recruiting sort of biologists or biochemists. And I believe pharmacology sits in between, like, sort of bio and chemistry. We are recruiting chemists. So if your master's has a sort of organic chemistry bias to it, then absolutely, please put a form in. But yeah, just make sure, again, you demonstrate your technical skills and tailor it to the advert. If we're asking for organic chemists, tell us about your organic chemistry experience.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Claire. Now, we've got a couple of minutes left, so I'm just quickly going to come back to you, Angie, here, just to talk about the interview and kind of how you prepared and what your experience was.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that my interview, because I had a knee accident back then, it was online. So I was not able to attend the office physically, which is what usually happens. But yeah, so I had my interview online. And the week before, I started preparing like a few quick notes about what is a patent, the legal aspect, what is the intellectual property office, just try to demonstrate that I know a lot about the company itself. Even though during the interview we don't really talk about the company. I don't remember talking about the company that much. It's more about the pattern examining and the core skills, like your ability to assess the application, understand the application. And basically, I would say the key tip for me for the interview was to speak up your mind. Exactly what you're thinking, just say that to the panel, because that's what they like to hear. They want to know how you're thinking. Even if it's wrong, it doesn't matter. They want to learn more about your process and how you're going to deal with that in the future.
That's great. So think out loud when you're kind of
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It was
That's a
very
really good
useful.
tip. Yeah. It's really good. Because if they want to kind of understand that process, make sure you're telling them as you're thinking. So thank you very much, Angie. Charlotte, do you have any final hints and tips for our audience before we finish off?
I would just reiterate everything that's already been said. Absolutely put the research in. And as Angie said there as well, speak out loud what you're thinking, because even if maybe you're not on the right track, you might have the right thought process, and therefore you might eventually sort of get there. But above all, I would just say relax and be yourself, and as much as you can, try and enjoy the process.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we want everyone to do. So thank you so much for all of your insights and guidance today, and information about your careers. Remember, there are the patent examiner roles live on the Company Hub right now, with the closing date of the 17th of February, and those digital roles coming towards the end of the month. So make sure you follow the IPO to be alerted to those. Thank you all so much for giving us such a great insight. It's been wonderful speaking with you all. And the recording of this webinar will be available for you to watch in full tomorrow on the IPO Gradcracker Company Hub. And we'll also break this up into bite-sized highlights covering some of the key topics we've discussed today over the coming days as well. And remember, our companies love it when you tell them you've watched their webinar, as they know that means you'll already have a really good understanding of the organisation, and it shows you have a real interest in working for them. So make sure you go and get your applications in for the IPO and let them know you are here today. That's it for this season of the Gradcracker webinars. We will be back in September with some more amazing guests. Thank you to everyone who has joined our webinar today and throughout this season, and to all of the amazing employers we've had the pleasure of speaking to so far. For those of you graduating this year, best of luck for the future, and some of you may even be on a Gradcracker webinar panel next year. And we look forward to seeing everyone else again in the autumn. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.